They're saying don't blame the messenger. Your response to them?
Lied about Russia, lied about Gold Star.
Lied about Russia, lied about Gold Star veterans, lied. He hates the president. Fake news. That's it, though. Okay. Atlantic Magazine released more texts about the Yemen strike plan from the group chat. We'll start off with TextGate. We'll start off with that. TextGate, Yemen Gate, Houthi group chat gate, whatever you want to call it. I have a lot of unique thoughts on the matter that I haven't really seen be broadly reflected in other mainstream outlets. So let's take going on here.
This is CNN breaking news.
All right, we have breaking news. The Atlantic has just published a brand new piece by Jeffrey Goldberg and Shane Harris. And it has the details and the text messages that the government says was not classified. And it tells you all about what is happening 31 minutes before they launch the planes that drop the bombs in Yemen. Brian Stelter joining us now with more details. There are huge revelations in this, and they certainly, how would you describe what you're seeing in the text messages?
These are shockingly detailed descriptions of the bombs that are about to fall in Yemen.
Sorry, I was blowing my nose, so I'm... Oh, I can't talk. Sorry, I was blowing my nose, so I muted myself, and then I started hiccuping, so I can't even talk. Oh my God. All right, whatever. I'm not even saying anything.
And Jeffrey Goldberg is getting these details many minutes before the bombs fall. If this is not classified information, I would like the president to tell us what would count as classified information. Now, The Atlantic is publishing this on theatlantic.com because Trump and his aides have said that none of this is classified. That has been the main defense from the Trump White House in the past 2 days, that these text messages were a mistake. Goldberg never should have seen them, but nothing was classified. Nobody was in any danger. That's the argument we've heard advanced. Because of that argument, Goldberg went back to his colleagues and talked with his lawyers at The Atlantic, and they decided to go ahead and publish the text messages that they had originally withheld. Remember, Goldberg withheld some of this information because he thought it could risk national security, because it could have put U.S. military members in harm's way. So now he's decided to go ahead and publish the full unredacted text message chain with one omission. He is still withholding the name of a CIA employee because the CIA has asked him to do so. So that is notable. There still is something in these messages that is considered so sensitive that The Atlantic is choosing not to publish it. But
yeah, of course the information is classified. What a stupid conversation to be having. I mean, the administration is so wrong. Yeah, obviously it is incredibly classified. You can't... The fact that they were having this convo over Signal is wild. All of this is wild. The fact that they accidentally brought up Goldberg. If one more person writes a fucking dumbass cure in the chat for hiccups, I'm going to make my own Signal group with the principals committee and start doing strikes as well, okay? On this chat. I am going to go on a ban spree that resembles the principals committee's appetite for death and destruction. Okay, our story begins in Yemen. As you guys know, the Ansar Allah movement, led by the Al-Houthi family, also known as the Houthis, which was redesignated as a terrorist group under the Biden administration under Operation Prosperity Guardian, has been maintaining a blockade on the Red Sea, which happens to be along their coastline. Biden spent $1 billion in Operation Prosperity Guardian to try and stop them from overtaking ships passing the Red Sea in an effort to thwart the flow of commerce that goes through Israeli ports. They actually saw a lot of success in this process. The people that, on the other hand, saw a lot of failure in this process was the American government. The American government spent $1 billion and did not end up stopping the Houthis from being able to overtake ships and make it virtually impossible and far too dangerous to allow commerce to flow through the Red Sea. And now the Trump administration is doing the exact same. In a circumstance like this, you have two options. You either try to bomb Yemen again, as every president has done prior, from Barack Obama to Trump 1 to Joe Biden to Trump 2, or listen to the demands that the Yemeni government is making, specifically looking at when the blockade on the Red Sea stopped. Because the blockade on the Red Sea did not exist pre-October 8. The blockade on the Red Sea did not exist during times of ceasefire. They very openly said, we're stopping our blockade. Commerce can flow through the Red Sea once again, since Israel has finally come to the table and agreed to the terms and conditions of their quote-unquote very own ceasefire. So, that's the process here. You can either listen to the demands being made by the Houthis, which is very reasonable, actually, very moral, 100%. I will say that. I have no issue stating that. It is one of the few groups in the region that is actively trying to issue financial penalties to that is currently doing a genocide. Okay? I'm not going to sit here and say that their demands are unjust. It is perfectly reasonable, and the expectation from all of you would be the exact same during the Nazi Holocaust. If people were trying to disrupt supply lines going into Germany at the time, if they knew that the concentration camps were being built and set up and the Holocaust was taking place, I'm certain that no one would criticize the resistance, just like no one would criticize the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, unless you're a f***ing Nazi, in which case you would criticize those things. So, America, being the most powerful nation on the planet, has the capacity to rein in its attack dog Israel in the region and say, hey man, enough, you've done enough genocide, we got to dial this back. But instead, they're attacking all of the people that are trying to stop Israel from doing a genocide. Because we are objectively the bad guys. But of course, Trump being Trump and having an administration filled to the brim with some of the most incompetent drunkards and rapists has had an incredibly Trumpian moment here. Mike Waltz, the National Security Advisor, sets up a group chat on Signal. It's a commercial application that anyone can use. Very strange. Normally, classified information should be documented and kept to secret back channels of communication. You should never use an application that can use the phone numbers in your personal contacts list on your personal phone to make matters of state security, to communicate with people on matters of classified information and war, okay? There's a secondary side to the story that I don't see a lot of people talking about, which is that Signal conversations are slated to be deleted. They get deleted after a certain period of time, and I'm fairly certain that this group chat, the principals set up, that they actually invited Goldberg, Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine to, accidentally, was slated to be deleted. This is illegal. This is illegal. These sorts of conversations are supposed to be documented and logged. It doesn't have to be revealed to the public, but they're supposed to be documented and logged. The very fact that they are having secret convos like this that are slated to be deleted is dangerous. Okay? It is a way to skirt accountability, and that is precisely the reason why it is illegal. Just so you understand. Disappearing message time was set to 1 week. As I said, these are the text messages that were fully revealed, from what I understand, by Jeffrey Goldberg and The Atlantic. And as you can see, it says, Michael Waltz, National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, added you to the group, alongside 18 other members. Every single person on that Houthi PC small group is a person that's supposed to be there. Well, I guess technically no one is supposed to be there because it's not supposed to be on Signal, but these are the people that are supposed to be having this conversation, with the exception of Jeffrey Goldberg. Now, my opinion on this is a little bit different than the way that the media is covering it, because everyone is focusing on the incompetence of this administration. Everyone is focusing on the national security issues that this presents. As someone who thinks that the American actions against the Houthis is completely unjustifiable and on the wrong side of history and on the wrong side of morality, as someone who believes that the American State Department could do a whole lot of good and refuses to do so and does a whole lot of bad instead, I don't necessarily care that they are being incompetent. I wish that they would be less belligerent and still be incompetent. I care about their belligerent nature. I care about their violent nature. I don't necessarily care that they are being incompetent and accidentally revealing the comings and goings of how the executive office makes wartime decisions. And I've always maintained that I'm pro-leaks. Okay? And there it is. This is from April 14th, 2023. I like leaks. I don't care if it's because you saw massive harm being done to civilians at the hands of our military and wanted to blow the whistle, or because your Groiper Discord kittens were acting out of line and you needed to teach them a lesson. This is what I said about the Groiper military guy who leaked state secrets back then. Leaks are good. I'm pro-leaks. I am always pro-leaks and will continue to be pro-leaks. This is how good journalism happens. Now, of course, lucky for them, even though they were unlucky and invited Jeffrey Goldenberg into this conversation. Lucky for them, Jeffrey Goldenberg is not a good journalist. He's a bad journalist. He's a stenographer for the State Department. He has actively championed the Iraq War and followed through on the lies that the American government was presenting. So for that reason, he managed this in, I think, the worst ways possible, because he's a careerist. That's precisely the reason why the National Security Advisor, Michael Wallace, had his phone number to begin with. Okay? Having said that, everyone's focus on this has been the hypocrisy. Hillary Clinton vindicated. Or the fact that they made this like blunder, this very stupid mistake. And I get that. It's funny. Okay? That part is funny. And their defense of this, the administration's defense of this, has been even funnier. But I think it's still more important to remember that these guys are talking about blowing up civilians in the poorest nation on the planet. And for what reason? Because the poorest nation on the planet has decided to take matters into their own hands against a much more powerful nation in the region doing unlimited child murder in a genocidal campaign that they have enacted. I think that in and of itself is far more important to discuss, and I don't see anybody discussing that aspect of it. I truly don't see a lot of people discussing that aspect of it. But I digress. Let's get back to the drama of it all.
But the headline here is that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth did send detailed descriptions of the military strike in Yemen to this group ahead of time. Goldberg was able to read these messages ahead of time. He looked at it and didn't know if it was real or not, but then he looked on social media and saw that the bombs were beginning to fall in Yemen. People can read this for themselves on the Atlantic website, but what you see in Hegseth's message, the key message here is from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and he specifies the timing for the attack, the first wave, the second wave, which military fighters were going to be used, and exactly what would happen when. So again, if that's not classified information, honestly, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I just want to quickly read one of the things. It says, time now, weather is favorable, just confirmed with CENTCOM. We are a go for mission launch. And then it describes in detail what they are about to do. So clearly, these are war plans over and over and over again. Pete Hegseth has said these are not war plans. This is going to be a very difficult thing for the administration to deny at this point with this being published. Thank you so much, Brian Stelter. Stick around with us for a second. John?
All right. And furiously going through these texts right now to get a sense of what they are. I want to bring in our chief national security.
In the military, if someone did this, you'd be violating UCMJ, of course, but also Pete Hegseth. If you had that many openings as someone with alcoholism issues and as someone who was if you had been alleged to have raped somebody and there was a police report about it, they would never elevate a normal person and give them top security clearance, let alone even like low-level security clearance. So yes, when you are at that level, when you are a dick rider of Trump, they just kind of let you do it. Yes. It does not matter. None of this stuff matters. How could they plan out how to bomb the most civilians possible using Signal instead of a skiff? Yeah.
Security reporter Alex Marquardt. And Alex, what is striking is that some of the messages that were sent before the attack took place talked about which weapons, which aircrafts would be used, and what time the bombs would be dropped.
Yeah, and this all goes to the question of what are war plans, because the pushback that we have heard from the Trump administration and from Pete Hegseth specifically, who put the most detail in this chat, was these are not war plans. So that's what they're quibbling with. These are certainly strike plans because this is an extraordinary amount of detail. Now, The Atlantic is saying that they feel comfortable publishing this because of this repeated pushback from the administration, that what we are looking at is not classified. But I just want to reiterate what our colleague Brian Stelter said. If this is not classified, we don't know what is. This is some of the most valuable information when it comes to carrying out strikes that, in fact, the CIA director, John Ratcliffe, said yesterday, this is the kind of stuff, these pre-strike deliberations should take place in classified channels. They did not. So not only do we have all kinds of information about what was going to happen, we now also have information about what happened afterwards, essentially a post-strike assessment report, which is not something that we had seen in the original report from Jeffrey Goldberg. All he had said was that Pete Hegseth, in the hours prior to this strike on the Houthis on March 15th, laid out operational details, timing, weaponry, etc. So a lot more details here. We have at 12:15, Pete Hegseth says the first launch of F-18s. And then in all caps, as he's laying out the timing of how this is going to go, he writes, this is when the first bomb.
What was the best way for Goldberg to have handled the situation, in your opinion? Never revealed that he actually has access to this data until he gets something that is so alarming that he writes about it. I think he just stays in the chat. If they don't recognize that he's in the chat, he just stays in the chat and he keeps logging for as long as he can. Or he reveals the plans instantly. That's espionage? No, it's not espionage. You want to know why it's not espionage? Because they fucked up. It's not like he snuck into the chat. They added him. What do you mean? You can't say something is espionage. Put me down? No, I will not be putting you down. I'm going to shake you a little bit too. Shouldn't this one action already be enough? Like in any other administration, I can see this being a huge deal compared to now. No, nothing is a huge deal anymore. Would have been illegal for him to do this. He has an affirmative duty to let them know he fucked up. They fucked up, you mean, not he. I know what you're saying, but he can't just lay in wait. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care about the affirmative duty in this situation. I don't think you guys understand. I am an unconditional supporter of Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, Chelsea Manning, and many others. Okay? So you're not going to get me to go, yeah, he actually shouldn't gather as much intel as possible and then blow the whistle on all of it. What are you talking about? He's a journalist. The expectation from us as American citizens should not be to have journalists play ball with the State Department. Every single person, every single journalist should be inherently contentious towards the State Department. But because in the aftermath, especially of 9/11, this attitude has completely been shredded, that we don't even expect them to do journalism. We expect them to be good people that never violate any rules or laws. Like, what are you talking about? Virtually every big investigation from the Pentagon Papers all the way back to uncovering the massacres in Vietnam, shouts out to Seymour Hersh for that, they were all actions that were inherently against the State Department's opinions and goals, and they were illegal technically. Modern liberals have unironically forgotten about what journalism is supposed to be. Playing ball with an administration and playing ball with a government is not what journalism is. But of course, that's the reason why Mike Waltz, the freaking national security advisor to the Trump administration, has Jeffrey Goldberg's phone number to begin with. That's it. It is the heart of the problem with modern journalism. It is part of the reason why people don't trust journalists in general. And I talked about this yesterday. Hey, journalists here, the reality is if you add a journalist or invite them into a room, you open yourself up to getting reported on. It doesn't matter how they got there. For example, the reporter going into your bedroom and reporting on your phone call with your manager, it is part of the game. People in chat are dumb. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's free game, baby. What is a journalist supposed to do? Then they have their job is not to do journalism. Their job is to be a stenographer. And you're openly recognizing that. You're openly stating that you want journalists to be a stenographer of the State Department. Like, that's wild to me. I don't understand that at all. I tweeted about this yesterday and people were kind of mad at me for that as well. I said, where is it? Jeffrey Goldberg refusing to dump all the text messages in the Houthi signal chat is exactly why the NatSec advisor had his personal phone number. It is precisely the problem with fake journalists at legacy publishers. They're stenographers of the State Department. This person says he hasn't dumped them yet. They're going to be pulled by Senate Intelligence Committee after testimony from everyone involved that no classified information was shared. It's not ideal for Twitch streaming, but sometimes it's better to be patient. It's like, this is not about Twitch streaming. Like, what? The expectation that you have to wait for the State Department to tell you what you are allowed to report is insane. You know? It's crazy to me. Sometimes better to be right than to be the first to post about it. What? They think you were wrong because they got published? Wait, what? People were mad at you for that. Your replies are very stupid. Yeah, always. It's Twitter. Twitter is very stupid. Wait for the State Department to censor potential info that shows how fucking dumb the admin is. A moron. Yeah, so here's the thing. What you're supposed to do in this situation is go to your legal team that knows what kind of information is not publishable, okay? You're supposed to black out certain pieces of information. Like, you can't, there's an argument to be made about not uncovering, like, CIA operatives, for example. If you ask me, I don't really care, but I understand why, you're not supposed to unmask active duty service members and put their lives in harm's way. It's a moral, there is also like a moral argument there as well in terms of like, do you want to be responsible for someone getting killed, right? Like, that's a thing that you have to think about. One of the best examples of this, of course, is the way that the now disgraced but formerly award-winning journalist Glenn Greenwald, and the way that he went about reporting on all of the information uncovered by Edward Snowden. Okay, like, there were plenty of parts of the Edward Snowden documents that were, of course, redacted. Same with Chelsea Manning. There's always going to be plenty of parts that will be redacted. Okay, now read your own tweet. What do you mean? I understand that part. Okay, I understand that. When I say dump all the text messages, I'm saying you can redact key aspects of it. Playing ball with the State Department and waiting for them to give you the go-ahead is not journalism. At no point am I saying you should wait for the State Department and get the go-ahead from the State Department. That is not journalism. The irony, of course, is that there are still parts of the text messages, from what I understand. If you get the go-ahead from the editor of the State Department, you don't get the Watergate leaks. Exactly. That's what I mean. Like, what are we talking about? Like, I think maybe a lot of people don't understand, like, the history of journalism in the United States of America or how it's supposed to work. And that's fine. That's okay. I mean, this is a big part of this is a big part of why I do what I do, where I try to, like, explain to you media literacy and look at American media and Western media and media all around the world through a critical lens. And this is part of it. You know, this is part of my job here. But so much reporting would just never be released if they waited on the State Department to give you the go-ahead, in which case that's not journalism at all. That's just, you're being, once again, a stenographer for the State Department. Whistleblowers are supposed to uncover truths that the government wants to hide. It's very interesting that people don't understand this. It's not Jeffrey Goldberg's job to maintain state security. His job is actually to sometimes violate state security. His job is directly supposed to be adversarial to every single person that's in that group chat. You're not supposed to play ball with them, ever. If you are playing ball with them, that means you're not doing journalism. You're doing the opposite. That's why I say he is a stenographer for the State Department rather than one who is directly at odds with it, which is precisely the reason why this conversation now is on the aesthetics and the silliness of the administration and not necessarily the actions that were being taken here.
Bombs will definitely drop. That is extraordinarily sensitive information. And the point that we have been making and that Jeffrey Goldberg and his colleague Shane Harris make in this report is, if it were not Goldberg in this chat, if it were someone else who could have shared this information with the Houthis, with other adversaries, they would have had access to an extraordinary level of detail about what was just going to happen. But I really do want to highlight some of the new information that we got here about what happened in the wake of this strike, because what we had understood was that Pete Hegseth and perhaps John Ratcliffe, the CIA director, that they had put the most sensitive information into this group chat. Here we have Mike Waltz, the national security advisor. He's also adding some extraordinarily sensitive information into this chat because he gives the group a sense of what happened in the aftermath. He writes that a building collapsed. He actually said that specifically to J.D. Vance, the vice president. He talks about this building collapsing, the fact that they were able to kill what he called the top missile guy who was walking to his girlfriend's building, and it has now collapse. So this is an after-action report from the National Security Advisor. He praises the intelligence community. He praises Pete Carilla, the head of Central Command. So this is just, again, a remarkable...
How can people see the state media as a sign of totalitarianism but want the State Department stamp on all information? I know. It's like people talk about the restrictions placed upon free press in China, and then without a shred of irony will unironically say we need to implement similar structures here in the United States of America. And it's like, how are you? No, I want journalists to operate freely and be adversarial both in China and also in the United States of America. Like, what are we talking about? It's very important. Like, why are we waiting for the stamp of approval from the state for journalists to do their job? If that was the case in every single story, there would be so much information that you'll never get access to. Required reading in journalism school should legit be manufacturing consent. Changed my whole perspective on how I work after I read it. Yeah.
Level of detail. We have heard in the past 24 hours the Trump administration sticking to their guns, saying that none of this is classified information, but that they don't want it out there because they don't want, as Carolyn Levitt said, internal and private deliberations amongst high-level senior staff to be put out there. They objected to this release, but we now have much fuller detail in terms of what was in these text messages on this Signal chat. And of course, guys, this comes just an...
Especially this administration, you have no duty to defend them. You, as a matter of fact, I would say, have a duty not to defend them, to constantly present yourself as an adversary. If you are a journalist who cares about this job, who cares about the future of journalism, who cares about the future of democracy, theoretical or in practice, you have a duty not to work with this government and to do the exact opposite. It's crazy. There is nothing, no holds barred. It's crazy to me that people still maintain this notion that, like, people still maintain this notion that you have to make sure that the information is that you're presented with due to the ineptitude of this administration is one that you have to get additional stamps of approval from the state from. Like, get the fuck out of here. How is that any different than, like, having a military censor, like in the IDF, carefully go through everything that you are releasing? Then it's not real journalism in that point.
An hour and 15 minutes before these intelligence officials are supposed to sit down again in front of an intelligence committee on Capitol Hill.
This is when the first bombs will definitely drop. Again, an extraordinary level of detail on a text exchange before the actual bombs drop. And one point I want to reiterate here is that while Pete Hegseth and others say this was not classified information, that might be semantic only because Pete Hegseth himself can't even retroactively say information was not classified. Alex Marquardt, thank you for that reporting.
Let's get to Jeff Zeleny, who is at the White House for us. Jeff, these are extraordinary text messages that a reporter was added into this group. Mike Waltz saying it was a mistake. How is the Trump administration and the Trump White House going to explain this? And are you hearing anything from them? Because they have been standing by all of the members of this group, including the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth.
Look, Sarah, as you were just saying there, we're getting an extraordinary minute-by-minute look at some of those messages now that The Atlantic has published in the wake of the president's and others' assistance yesterday. There was no classified information in these, but we're also getting a peek behind what led to the publishing of these. The Atlantic, we're told, as they're writing in the magazine this morning, that they alerted the White House and other national security agencies and said that they did plan to publish and ask if there were any objections. So the White House press secretary is pushing back again this morning, a very familiar page from the Trump playbook, and again attacking the Atlantic, calling it a hoax, going after...
They should all be sucking up to the Atlantic, you know what I mean, for not immediately leaking this information, which they should have, in my opinion. Like, he should be kissing Goldberg's feet for not immediately verifying whether or not this group chat was had any veracity. Like, that's another thing. Jeff Goldberg being like, oh, I thought it was a joke. Like, dude, what is wrong with you? You are the editor-in-chief of a prominent legacy media publisher, and you didn't, like, you had this incredible scoop dropped on your feet, okay, placed upon you on a silver platter, and you didn't investigate further. You didn't, like, try to see if these numbers were actually the numbers of the people that you were in the group chat of, to figure out whether or not this was a real conversation taking place and then instantly report on it. Every part of the story frustrates me as someone who does a lot of media criticism, okay? Like, it's insane to me that he was just like, oh, I was in the group chat and I was like, oh, this is a funny meme. Like, you're not a random guy. You're not a random guy. You should know better. And then he left the group chat too. He's like, I'll see myself out. Peace, boys. Every part of this is so frustrating. Him saying he thought it was a joke is a lie, bro. Yeah, I'm willing to bet that is a lie. Yes.
Some long-held grievances that the president has held with Jeffrey Goldberg, who's been the author of several pieces over the years that the president has not liked. But the White House press secretary is also going after a Wall Street Journal editorial this morning that is taking a specific look at Steve Witkoff. He, of course, is one of the president's close friends, who's a Middle East envoy. He was meeting with Vladimir Putin on March 13th, at the time that all these conversations and signal messages were going on. But the White House is pushing back and saying he was not using his personal phone while he was in Moscow. He was using a government phone when he returned back. But the actual substance of this, so this is what certainly will be shined a light on at the House hearing that is now scheduled to begin in just a little over an hour. The very specific details of these wartime plans, from the weather conditions for the bombs are about to drop. So again, as we saw yesterday, the light was shining on the defense secretary. We saw the director of national intelligence and the CIA director saying it was up to the defense secretary to answer questions if these were indeed the classified war plans. And now we can see for ourselves very operational.
I'm a fan, but why'd you use a rare opportunity to noticeably call out Elon Musk's corruption and racism to invite him to collab and game with you instead? Why do you want to collab with a Nazi? As a fan, I think you should probably understand that if he were to come on this stream, it would not be to simply collaborate and have a tickle party. I think that's just like me saying, like, come on the stream. Are you okay? Like, do you think that if Elon Musk came on the broadcast that I wouldn't use that as an opportunity to ask him some serious pointed questions? You think I would just like have fun with him, like, and talk about how wonderful he is? Perhaps you should ask yourself how you arrived at such an unimaginably uncharitable and perhaps stupid opinion of me, you know? Ask yourself that. It's just negative critical thinking skills all the way down, I think. Wow, Donald Trump wants to come on your stream. Seems like you want to platform Donald Trump. Sweetie, have you thought about the repercussions of platforming the president or platforming the shadow president? Also, it's so funny because, like, Elon Musk, despite his endless stupidity, also understands that invitation is simply bait and didn't bite it. But that chatter personally thinks I love Elon Musk now. What a strange way to approach this issue. Anyway, let's continue.
Details there that certainly are now giving new fodder for more questions. So the White House was thinking yesterday, was hoping that they were going to put this behind them, at least the political fallout from this. And they're trying to make it into a political scandal, not a national security controversy. We shall see how successful they are in doing that. But now, having all of these plans in front of us, it certainly looks like minute by minute by minute what was about to happen. Certainly seems like war plans and war planning to anyone who's reading it.
Latest fallout from the national security breach in the Trump administration. A reporter mistakenly invited to a group chat about an attack on Yemen on a widely available messaging app.
And top intelligence officials face questions, as you can imagine, on Capitol Hill as the president defended his national security advisor. Our chief global affairs anchor, Martha Raddatz, has the latest for us. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, Robin. This morning, all eyes once again on the White House. This has been an extraordinary 24 hours with the president and some of his most senior cabinet officials trying to brush off this story by attacking the reporter Jeffrey Goldberg. But Goldberg did not seek out this explosive story. He was handed it.
Yeah, the media intrigue side of the story is actually shocking. Like, I haven't heard anyone from any serious news publication turn around and say, it's kind of odd that he didn't reveal this information immediately. As a matter of fact, they keep celebrating the fact that it was actually Jeffrey Goldberg and not some other scary person, like a person who would do real reporting on the matter. It just strikes me as so strange because, like, it almost feels like the media, all of these, like, legacy publishers, are unironically praising Goldberg for doing something that their jobs require him not to do, for doing the opposite of what he was supposed to do in that process. It's very strange. It's very, very strange. I don't know.
This morning, The Atlantic calling the Trump administration's bluff, publishing the entire text chain between the administration's national security team on the operational plan for this month's U.S. attack on Iranian-backed Houthis. A new article from editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg shared the detailed text from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, sending the group a rundown of the operation from the time F-18 fighter jets would launch to when the first bombs would drop, and the time Tomahawk missiles would launch. The Atlantic also publishing most of the names of the people included in the chat. This morning, the White House doubling down on claims these were not war plans. President Trump's national security team on the defensive, with Democrats now calling for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's resignation. The secretary trying to deflect any blame and downplay that extraordinary security breach, where Hegseth reportedly shared highly sensitive operational plans in a group chat about this month's U.S. attack on Iranian-backed Houthis.
Nobody's texting more plans. I know exactly what I'm...
Sorry to bother you, but will you cover the kidnapping of a Turkish PhD student by ICE? No. I will not. I refuse to. What do you think? Do you think it's on the docket? Yes. The answer is yes.
Doing exactly what we're directing, and I'm really proud of what we accomplished. The successful missions that night and going forward.
Just hours earlier, President Trump's national security advisor, Mike Waltz, saying the blame lies with him.
I take full responsibility. I built the group.
In the White House with President Trump, Waltz unable to explain how journalist Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic was invited into the chat group where war plans were laid out.
I've never met, don't know, never communicated with, and we are...
How did his phone number get in your phone, big dog? How'd that happen? How? You know? Important questions. Now, we're going to watch Laura Ingraham on Fox News ask some of these questions of Mike Waltz. And it's actually interesting because, like, Laura Ingraham, ironically enough, despite being a government stooge and state media, actually asks him some pointed questions. It's interesting where she does, like, kind of some journalism, surprisingly enough.
And we are looking into and reviewing how the heck he got into this room.
President Trump last night in an interview with Newsmax with his own theory.
What it was, we believe, is somebody that was on the line with permission.
Michael Waltz claimed that he's never met, don't know, never communicated with Jeffrey Goldberg. Here's a photo of Waltz standing next to Goldberg during a 2021 event at the French Embassy. The event Waltz attended, a Q&A with French filmmaker, was moderated by Goldberg. He's right behind him, dude. It's like Elon being like, I've never seen Ghislaine Maxwell. I've never heard of Ghislaine Maxwell. I don't even know what she is. I don't know what she does. I have no idea what she's about to do. Never seen her.
Somebody that was with Mike Waltz, worked for Mike Waltz at a lower level, had, I guess, Goldberg's number.
This is also funny. Okay, this is also pretty funny. Because even Waltz hasn't gotten his story straight. Like when this came out, and they had like what 2 days now, the immediate goal should be to find a coherent narrative and stick to it. And because they are so incredibly incompetent, they can't even have a consistent narrative here. And the part of this that I don't see a lot of people talk about is this. This is illegal. You cannot have disappearing messages in 4 weeks when it's the Principals Committee having private correspondence over classified war plans. You can't talk about striking a foreign nation, which, by the way, still at a certain point in time required congressional approval. Okay, we are so far past that point. I'm not even going to get into it, because they're declared a terrorist organization, so you can do whatever you want, and there's no congressional approval necessary. But like at a certain point in time, this would be the main conversation. They'd be like, what do you mean you're using American military without congressional approval to strike foreign countries? That seems insane. That seems illegal, because it was, and it still should be. But we're not even having that conversation. And also, they're not even having this conversation. What is going on? It's wild how the standards have shifted so dramatically. They're gone. It's eroded. There's nothing. There's no oversight whatsoever. You got a bunch of dudes in a group chat with their personal phones with disappearing messages going, yeah, we should strike this place next. Yeah, hell yeah. I didn't even look to see who else was in this group chat. I'm sure it's fine. It's copacetic. Let's go. It's incredible.
Or called through the app, and somehow this guy ended up on the...
Couldn't they argue it's the same as a phone call? No. Okay? Because, again, phone calls like this are supposed to be done with... are supposed to be documented. Okay? You can't do that on a phone call either. You're not... Like, there are places where you can do this sort of... there are places where you can have this sort of back and forth, this sort of communication through a secure line with all of the conversation being documented. You can't just do it via text message. What do you mean? You might as well tweet it out, you know? Hey, man, let's just have this convo in broad daylight on Twitter. Let's have this back and forth on Twitter. We'll do a Twitter comms for it. It's ironic because there are chatters in this community that have security clearances. They all know that if they were to do something a fraction, if they were to do something that is like a fraction as bad as what these guys did, they would be put in prison. They would lose their security clearance, they would lose their job, and perhaps they would be facing prison time. Because for normal people, you go to jail for this. This is not just like a minor violation. This is a major violation.
Call.
Goldberg says it was Waltz himself who added him to the chat on the app Signal, where he says he saw texts from Hegseth that laid out specific war plans, saying the plan included precise information about weapons packages, targets, and timing.
There was no classified information, as I understand it. They used a app, if you want to call it an app, that a lot of people use, a lot of people in government use, a lot of people in the media use.
Signal is an encrypted commercial messaging app, but it's not clear to transmit classified information or presumably highly sensitive war plans.
Yeah, here's the video. A leaked private training video from ProPublica that uncovered the... Hold on. How do I...
Yeah, so that's where things get really tricky as a political appointee.
Here.
And you mentioned emails a lot, but Michael, what are other records? Do Signal chats count as records?
Yeah, so that's where things get really tricky as a political appointee, especially, for those who've never worked in federal government before. There's plenty of apps and other messaging platforms out there, whether it's deleting messages, encrypted communications, or whatnot. But all the agencies under the federal government are governed by certain records retention policies. So you have to be careful with whatever agency you're working at, that you're following those policies. That's another way that political appointees get into trouble sometimes, is they're using these encrypted chat platforms or self-deleting messages, and they are, in some sense, violating the law by deleting those. Because if you're conducting official business, whatever communication was transmitted to conduct that official business, that's a federal record, and it needs to be properly retained so that someone can request it under FOIA.
And you mentioned emails a lot, but
Yep.
Michael.
They know. Of course, it's illegal. Yes, it is totally not allowed. Big time. Okay, it's super illegal. You can't do that. There needs to be proper documentation. Like, even if it's not made public, it needs to be in the public record. Albeit the classified parts will be redacted, but you need to go back and be like, why did these guys make these decisions? It's crazy. Ironically enough, half of the conversation about like Hillary's butter email scandal was about this.
National security officials are told to...
Trump was like, lock her up. Talking about Hillary Clinton, which, oh God, it would have been so sick if he actually had done that, but he's a coward who lies about everything, including all the good things that he was supposed to do. But, this is what the butter emails was about. The butter emails was literally this.
To rely instead on secure rooms at the White House. In 2021, a Pentagon internal watchdog report found Signal to be an unauthorized means of communicating sensitive information and breached the department's records retention policies. But even though the Trump administration is trying to deflect blame, Democrats on the Hill are pressing for accountability, grilling intelligence officials on Tuesday.
This is utterly unprofessional. There's been no apology. It's an embarrassment. Senator, you need to do better. You need to do better.
Demanding answers from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, two officials who were on that signal chain. The growing scandal even has some Republicans breaking ranks with the administration.
What do you make of the White House saying that no war plans were shared, criticizing the reporter?
That's baloney. I don't think they ought to just be honest and own up to it.
Gabbard and Ratcliffe will be back on the Hill today facing more questions, and the controversy could grow. The White House confirming this morning that Elon Musk's team is now involved in efforts that the White House says will make communications more secure and efficient. Robin?
So many layers to this story. All right, Martha, thank you.
Joining us now, one of the principals who was on that signal chat, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Advisor Waltz, thank you for joining us tonight. The president expressed complete confidence in you today and his entire cabinet. But how did a Trump-hating editor of The Atlantic end up on your signal chat?
You know, Laura, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but of all the people out there, somehow this guy who has lied about the president, who has lied to Gold Star families, lied to their attorneys,
this Trump hater, how did this Trump hater get on the fucking group chat, Mike? It's so funny. It's just like, why not me? Why do you got the Trump haters in the group chat? I would like to be in the group chat. I mean, Pete's my colleague, for fuck's sake, right? The DOD, the head of the DOD is literally my former colleague. Put me in the group chat. Laura Ingraham, I'll give you my phone number right now. I'll airdrop it to you.
Gone to Russia hoax, gone to just all kinds of links to lie and smear the president of the United States, and he's the one that somehow gets on somebody's contact and then gets sucked into this group.
Is someone in your intel? Is someone in your intel team trying to cause trouble here? Because that's the scuttlebutt out there.
Look,
that
we have people. We have people. No, look, this is a great group. The president has a great team. This is not first term.
No, your team. I'm not talking about the other principals.
No. These were principals and a couple of staff that were coordinating, as you saw, having a policy discussion as we went forward, and then just in the days before what was an incredible strike. Not only did we take out people that the Biden team never could, that we took out headquarters, missile caches, and actually...
This is also complete nonsense. Like, the Biden admin hit the Houthis as hard as they could. They did it over and over again.
One of the leaders of the Houthi organization, we've since taken out several since, and, that's what they don't want to talk about.
Also, the targeting and the like super Israel nature, which I guess like we taught Israel how to behave in that regard. So I don't want to give them too much credit on this, but the notion that like, oh, it's a perfectly permissible target. It was so sick. It was the best target of all time. You killed like 30 plus, I think it was like 50. I can't remember the exact number. It was like civilians. Like you killed a bunch of civilians. You killed multiple children. You're talking about killing multiple children on national television. As a matter of fact, that's the other side of the story that is very frustrating for someone like myself, where I look at this situation and I'm in awe of the fact that, like, obviously Laura Ingram's not going to do this, but like no one in the media is going, hey, they killed a bunch of kids in Yemen, in the poorest nation on the planet, like without congressional approval, with like in a private group chat. Like every part of the story is just completely messed up. And it seems odd that the only thing that everyone's hyper focusing on is like the belligerent nature of this admin, the incompetence of this admin, but they're not necessarily talking about that side of it. And I find it very strange. I find it strange that so much of the liberal outlets have completely given up on even calling to question the active war crimes of this administration. Like none of that is even up for debate at this point. We're just all on board with it, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly normal. Like, of course you're going to kill a bunch of kids. Because if I recall, even under Trump 1, right? Even under Trump 1, when there was a lot of back and forth about all the stuff that Trump was doing, I remember when the Saudi coalition forces that were backed by the United States of America, that were using American targeting systems and using American munitions, when they dropped a bomb on a school bus and killed a bunch of children, that made it into national news. People were talking about how unacceptable that was, that was kind of crazy that happened. And it's weird because it's Trump too, and he's directly doing that. And no one is going, hey, we killed a bunch of kids. Like, the American government just killed a bunch of kids in the poorest nation on the planet. What's going on there? That's crazy. Also, congressional permission for military action hasn't existed in my entire lifetime, law. I know. I'm a little bit older than you guys. So I mean, I was a baby at that point, but like, you know, there was a point in time when people used to say, at least in the media, like, hey, you need congressional approval for this kind of thing. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that without Congress? So post 9/11, we've completely dropped the ball on demanding that there is multiple authorities that must give approval before the executive office decides unilaterally on making decisions like this, because it's against terrorism. That's why terrorism as a designation is a vague one intentionally, and one that is so damaging in general. It's also ridiculous that collateral damage is not even called into question here. Like, you're just, or the very fact that we're bombing these people at all. Like, there are numerous points that someone like myself cannot wrap his head around before we get to like the incompetence of the admin. And everyone seemingly is talking about the incompetence of the admin. And maybe some people in this chat will say, Hasan, this is a good point of attack that like unites liberals. Sure, fine. But we're not even scratching the surface if that's all we talk about. If all we talk about in this process is, that these guys are stupid and they leaked this information, then you're not even having a real discussion over numerous other violations, right? Like, the question should be, should we be killing children? Should we be bombing Yemen? Is the answer yes to that question? Should we be doing it without congressional approval? Is the answer yes to that question? What kind of repercussions can we have if we just slap on a terrorism designation, especially when at the domestic front you see a lot of erosion of civil liberties and a potential constitutional crisis, with the terrorism designation being slapped on to random undocumented migrants and even documented migrants that look like they might be undocumented migrants without any due process? Nobody really cares, and you can just do deportation flights now to a fucking slave labor camp in El Salvador. All of this stuff is tied to one another, and every single day that I talk about this stuff without and when I don't hear other journalists and other figures in the media asking these questions, it makes me go crazy. It makes me feel like I'm the insane one. We are sheepdogging at this point. The media, the American media, is sheepdogging the fascist acceleration, and a lot of people are sleepwalking towards fascism, or we are in fascism, and a lot of people are sleepwalking, and some are goose stepping. Yeah, Rashida Tlaib said something along these lines, and a lot of people yelled at her for it. She said more heat for using a group chat than for the bombing itself, and everyone got mad. Denaturalize and deport Rashida Tlaib, says Max Nordau. Muscular Jew, the next to Florida content. I'm pretty sure this guy's not Jewish, by the way. Am I wrong? Didn't this guy get unmasked for being like a British guy, a British Christian guy? Is that the same guy? Am I thinking? This guy is he says he's muscular Jew, but he's not Jewish, I'm pretty sure. Or not muscular either. Yeah, he's some Christian dude. Rashida Tlaib, the incompetence of this admin is a story in and of itself. Shocking that we are not asking. 1. Is it appropriate to bomb a foreign nation without congressional approval that led to the killing of children? In a chat where text can be deleted. is not good even with the approval. I know. I'm giving a point of authority. Do you not understand? The common thread here is that the government can designate anything terrorism or anyone a terrorist and they can do whatever they want and it's horrifying. I know. Yeah. Oh, shit. Wait. Oh, no. I went over the... Is this an ex-Twitter post? I need to like it lightning fast. Hold on. I gotta delete something and update it so it's like... Okay. Oh. Anyway, let's get back to this idiot.
They don't want to talk about the success here. They don't want to talk about the hostages getting released. They don't want to talk about the Black Sea ceasefire that we just put in place today as the president ends the largest land war in Europe, or the border.
Yeah. They don't want to talk about our many accomplishments. It's like, yeah, they don't want to talk about any of that because, well, you know, the story in and of itself, at least from the perspective of Laura Ingraham and many others, is like, how did you let this happen?
Or the fact that Panama just kicked China out of the canal, and success after success after success. So they want to focus on this. It's embarrassing, yes. We're going to get to the bottom of it. I just talked to Elon on the way here. We've got the best technical minds looking at how this happened. But I can tell you for 100%, I don't know this guy. I know him by his horror.
Yeah, see, Matt Duss is correct on this. Executive Vice President at CI Policy, co-host of Undiplomatic Pod, former foreign policy advisor for Senator Sanders. Matt Duss and I might have some disagreements from time to time. He's been wanting to come on the stream, by the way. I should have him on the streams soon. But he's absolutely correct on this. Rules of engagement that permit destroying an entire civilian apartment building to kill one alleged terrorist as a part of Joe Biden's legacy. It's still a war crime, though, and Waltz's text is a confession. This is like, weirdly enough, not a aspect that they're talking about. And it's very weird that the media is not covering that angle at all. Like, it's just without question. Of course that's going to happen. Of course. You know, what do you mean? Duh. Obviously, we're just going to blow up entire buildings on a foreign nation that we're not actively at war with. Like, what are you talking about? What's it to you? And this isn't just... This is post 9/11 work for the most part. Barack Obama participated in this pretty aggressively, and so did Donald Trump the first time around, and so did Joe Biden. Just so you understand. And the text message itself is Michael Waltz saying, typing too fast, first target, their top missile guy. We had positive idea of him walking into his girlfriend's building, and now it's collapsed. JD Vance responds, excellent. Michael Waltz does the punch emoji, American flag emoji, and fire emoji. That in and of itself is a direct admission of a war crime. CENTCOM also lied and said that there were no civilians on top of that, which is ironic because...
No indications of any civilian casualties. We, of course, have seen some of the accusations by the Houthis. We look at those closely when they do come in, but we have no credible indications of any civilian casualties. Yeah,
we have no credible evidence. Sorry, the audio is really low. I don't know why, but he says... there's no civilian casualties, no indications of any civilian casualties. We, of course, have seen some accusations about the Houthis. We look at those, but, we don't trust them. And that right there is a lie. It's important. I'm glad that this text message group chat is revealed because this should be an educational moment for you. Oh, my God. The Pentagon spokesperson is lying to the American public, is lying to the NatSec reporters. How shocking. How shocking. Turns out he was lying. They knew that they were hitting civilians. They didn't care. And it turns out the Houthis weren't lying when they revealed the civilian casualty data. Think about that. What the F is happening now? Y'all are joking? What? Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic just released a full text message change. I have provided all text in this post in the thread below. Checkmate, Brian Krasenstein. I'm going to go through all the text messages in a second after I'm done with the Mickey Waltz response here, because I think it's like really stupid and delusional and must be covered.
Horrible reputation, and he really is the bottom scum of journalists. And I know him in the sense that he hates the president, but I don't text him. He wasn't on my phone. And we're going to figure out how this happened.
So you don't know what staffer is responsible for this right now?
Well, look, a staffer wasn't responsible, and look, I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure.
Huh. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Cool. Look, a staffer wasn't responsible. I take responsibility, but also we are all trying to find out who did this. We're all getting together and actively trying to find out who done it. Is a real who done it situation. I mean, I invited him. He's a scumbag. I don't know him. I do know him, but I don't know him. And also, it's not my fault, but it is. I take responsibility over it. It's like, how did you not do your due diligence before going on the freaking Laura Ingraham show, man? They are so laughably incompetent. I'm losing my mind. It's like, they just don't, I guess they don't need to be competent at all because everybody's just kind of letting them do all of it without any sort of pushback whatsoever, you know? Trump wants to know, why did you have his number in the first place? That National Security Advisor Mike Waltz had the Atlantic Editor-in-Chief Jeffrey Goldberg's number saved in his phone in the first place. Nice. I'm glad that Trump has his eyes on the prize here. You guys are doing group chats without me, and you're inviting Jeffrey Goldberg, who is very bad and very wrong, without inviting me to the group chat. What's going on? Why is Jeffrey in the group chat? You're planning without me. I don't like it. I want to talk about bombing the Houthis, but you invite Goldberg instead of me. One of the most relatable moments of Donald Trump's presidency is when they're planning a party without him and they invite a hater instead. Yeah. When you find out that there's a secret group chat without you and they invited the guy that you hate. Oh, God. Yeah, Dave Portnoy has some takes on this too. We'll cover that too.
But how did the number? I mean, I don't mean to be pedantic here, but how did the number? Have you
ever had somebody's contact that shows their name and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loot.
I'm sorry, what? So you had his phone number in your phone. You just thought it was a different JG? Is that what it is? Like you... Come on, Laura. Who amongst us hasn't put in the wrong contact information for a different person? Sure, that's fine. But that means that you still had Goldberg's phone number.
Loser in the group. It looked like someone else. Now, whether he did it deliberately, it happened.
He did it deliberately. Goldberg did it deliberately. Like he got someone else with a similar enough name that's supposed to be a part of the principal committee group chat to give you his number instead, because you added him. You added him into the group chat.
And some other technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
So you're a staff.
Yeah, Jeffrey Goldberg. Let's look at his age real quick. Jeffrey Goldberg, okay, editor-in-chief of the Atlantic, age 59 years old, was able to demonstrate technical prowess and was able to hack into this group chat. He knew it was going to happen, and he actually hacked into the Signal group chat and somehow got you to put his phone number in the group chat. That's cool. Yeah, for sure. I believe that. It must have been Hamas, actually, that did it.
Did not put his contact information.
No,
but how did it end up in your
that's
phone?
what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, even Laura's like, that seems stupid. I'm sorry if I don't ask a follow-up question here, everyone's gonna make fun of me. This is not the Sean Hannity suck job hour, okay? This is the Laura Ingraham show, bitch. Get your ass out of here. I'm gonna ask a question, a follow-up question to what you just said, because what you just said is fucking insane. Like, dude, come on.
Something we're trying to figure out.
So you're a staffer didn't...
Like, even she's like, what? I'm sorry. So you're not even... Like, this is her literally being like, just say it's a staffer, you fucking idiot. Okay? Say it's a staffer. Blame a staffer. What's wrong with you? She's like, so it's not a staffer? So you're saying that you put his phone number? What's...
Not put his... contact information.
No,
but how did it end up in your phone?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay. But that's a pretty big problem.
That is what, that's what we've got the best technical minds, right?
That's disturbing.
And that's where, I mean, I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different phone number.
But you've never talked to him before, so how's the number on your phone? I mean, I'm not an expert in any of this, but it's just curious. How's the number on your
phone? How did that happen? I mean, dude. Like, Mickey, Michael, what are you doing? What are you doing? I mean, this is the Onion meme of like, why do all these gay guys keep sucking my penis? Like, what do you mean? We're all trying to find out who did this. Who's the guy? Who's the guy? Who's the guy who did this? I mean, it was me, but like, I'm trying to figure out how, you know, I'm trying to figure out how this kept happening. It's just weird. It's I don't know.
Well, if you have somebody else's contact and then then somehow it gets sucked in, it gets sucked in.
Was there someone else supposed to be on the chat?
Real technical term from National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. It just gets sucked in. Wait, I'm sorry, what?
But it's just curious. How's the number on your phone?
Well, if you have somebody else's contact and then then somehow it gets sucked in, it gets sucked in.
It gets sucked in. It got sucked in, dude. It was a good suck. That's the man. That's the problem. It just, you know, sometimes it just gets sucked in, dude. It'd be like that. It do be like that. True. I never thought about that. How it gets sucked in sometimes. LMFAO sounds like me lying to my boss at 17. Yeah. It is tremendous and quite revealing, actually, that these dudes don't even care to come up with a coherent narrative here. Okay? There's none. They didn't even care to do so. He just went on Laura Ingraham and was like, I'll freestyle. It's fine. Like, what are you doing? This guy is the fucking head of the net. Oh my God. National Security Advisor Mickey Waltz. Okay? Like, he just didn't even think. Like a child with a bad grade from a quiz puts more forethought into lying to their parents than Mike Waltz is doing right now. That is crazy.
Was there someone else supposed to be on the chat that wasn't on the chat that you thought was on the chat?
So the person that I thought was on there was never on there. It was this
Who
guy.
was that? What person?
Well, I'm not. Look, okay. Laura,
I'm not at liberty to discuss that. Come on. As you know, Laura, I care quite a bit about classified information and who gets to hear it, as you can tell, which is why I'm here right now explaining to you that my phone number or Jeffrey Goldberg's phone number got sucked in. You know, that's classified. I can't. I famously care about classified information and not revealing, you know, classified information. Come on, Laura. You can't answer that.
I take responsibility. I built the group.
If only you and I were in a group chat on Signal, then I could tell you who the person was. But here I can't do that.
Okay. So but look, that's the part that we have to figure out. And that's the part that embarrassing, yes. But Pete and
I like that because they don't have a coherent narrative on this issue, by the way. Like, they didn't even bring in the troops together and be like, this is what we're going with. Instead of doing that, they're just all saying whatever first comes to mind. Like Tulsi Gabbard, head of DNI, okay, as soon as the story came out, was like, all of this information is classified. We're going to prosecute whoever leaked it to the full extent of the law. These are leakers. And then immediately after, like, actually, none of it is classified. What? Classified information? All this stuff is perfectly above board. But also, it's really inappropriate that they covered it. And it's like at what point? You should have immediately figured out that this was happening and come up with a coherent narrative as to why this was, you know, either not a big deal at all because it's not classified, or a very big deal and it is classified, and a staffer should be your fall guy. I can't believe I'm giving notes, and I assume that eventually this is what they're going to arrive at. Okay, their cover story is going to be, oh, a staffer accidentally put this person's phone number on my phone, and then they accidentally added this person thinking it was someone else. Okay? That's most likely going to be the narrative. But if I could come up with that right now on the spot, like, how did you not figure that out ahead of time? Like, actually, like, why didn't you just say, yeah, say it's a DEI staffer. We had a DEI staffer that was a holdover from the previous admin, and that DEI staffer did this. You know how it is. You know how these like these DEI staffers are. She was a woman. You know, we fired her. Make the staffer fall on the sword.
Are veterans.
Like, chatters who come in here, say some dumb shit, get banned, have better apology forms, okay? When they're like, I was drunk and my cat was also drunk and the cat ran over the keyboard. That's like a better fucking narrative than what Mickey Waltz is coming up with here. What the fuck?
We know these operations. He has been an excellent Secretary of Defense, and this was an operation that, I mean, it amazes me. I guess the Democrats were fine to leave all the sea lanes shut down. We're fine to have destroyers fired on dozens of times by this terrorist group, and fine to have Iran keep supplying them missiles. That was okay. The president takes decisive action.
These guys are such fake friends, by the way, because the Democrats do everything in their power to be as violent and as ruthless as possible, and they still call them pussies. So it should lead you to understand that the Democrats aren't ruthless and violent because when it comes to their foreign policy, because they're worried about like the right-wing backlash or whatever. They're doing it because they like it. Okay. They do it because they enjoy it. They do it because they like it. They do it because they serve the same exact masters. And that's it.
And now we're seeing some real success in taking down their air defenses, opening the sea lanes, taking out their leadership. We don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about this.
Now, the Atlantic told us in part that attempts to disparage...
By the way, Laura, bringing it immediately back to the main point of contention that she wants addressed, which is crazy. This is the most journalism I've seen from Fox News. Ironically, more journalism than even fucking Goldberg at this point. Like, she's like, nah, okay, well, here's the Atlantic. Here's what the Atlantic said. Well, I don't care about the shipping lanes. Okay. How did this happen? Here's what the Atlantic said. Now, of course, that moment of journalism is going to be short-lived. You'll see in a second.
Discredit us and our playbook by elected officials and others of power who are hostile to journalists and First Amendment rights of all Americans. They're saying, don't blame the messenger. Your response to them?
Lied about Russia. Lied about Gold Star.
Lied about Russia. Lied about Gold Star veterans. Lied. He hates the president. Fake news. That's it, though. Remember, we talked about cults, and one of the most like apt ways that cults will refuse to entertain any sort of discourse is a thought terminating statement, right? A thought terminating cliche. That's exactly what he's doing here. He's like, remember, fake news. Okay, got it. Biden. Fake news. Atlantic sucks. Fake news. And then everybody goes, hell yeah, he's right. I forgot about what the point of contention was to begin with.
Families lied about even as last, year in terms of the president paying for the family of a Gold Star family that he absolutely did. I mean, lie after lie after lie.
Have they ever apologized for any of that?
Yeah, see? And then Laura eats it immediately. After holding his feet to the fire for a brief moment, as soon as he hits that triple Monty, Laura goes, okay, that was a triple combo. I'm in. I'm back in. You're right. Has he ever apologized for any of those things? Now, obviously, Laura Ingraham isn't stupid or that stupid. She didn't get duped in that process. She was like, okay, it's my time to shut up.
I mean, this is... Do we care about the mainstream media? Do we care about the Atlantic? What I care about is staying focused on mission, accomplishing the president's agenda, getting these things done, cleaning up the Biden messes from Afghanistan to Ukraine to the Houthis to the border to China all over South America to the Arctic where we're completely exposed to NATO that's not paying up. And the president has had success after success. Well, he's got a fantastic national security team.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just stunning how many people on the team have his 100% trust, and there have been enormous successes early on in this administration, but you all are rattling the old cages of the establishment.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job. I just want to point out that you're doing a great job. You're doing a fantastic job. The reason why I called you in here today is to address why you are incompetent and stupid, but also I forgot about all of that. Let's talk about how great of a job you're doing. Fantastic. Thank you, Laura.
Defense and national security, embedded people who are still working in government, a lot of great people. But the concern is that somebody got involved here who didn't want
she's back to the questioning.
the president to be successful. And a lot of us are very concerned about that someone is in this orbit who doesn't want this president of the United States to be a raging success and turn our foreign policy into an America first approach.
Look, we made a mistake. We're moving forward, and we're going to continue to knock it out of the park for this president. Look at what he's gotten done in under 2 months. And I didn't even get going on the economy, on trade, or all of those other pieces.
And April 2nd's coming.
The Liberation Day.
The DNI was very adamant today and very clear that there was no classified information in this.
Yeah, interesting. Well, you know, since they leaked the information now, since after the DNI gave the go-ahead, we can potentially figure that out for ourselves, don't you think? Including, I mean, even the fact that, one, they're having this over Signal is completely unacceptable, considering that these messages are disappearing, also illegal. And then they talk about, like, who they want to appoint, point of contacts. That also could be considered classified. Okay? Also, no one is going, hey, why is the JG name not saying who their best point of contact is? But that's besides the point. You know, using your personal phones for this is also obviously illegal as well. Team, you should have statement of conclusion with taskings per the president's guidance this morning in your high side inboxes. State and DOD, we developed suggested notifications list for regional allies and partners. Joint staff is sending this AM events in the coming days. We will work with the DOD to ensure COS, OVP, and POTUS are briefed. Team, I'm out for the day doing an economic event in Michigan, but I think we are making a mistake. 3% of U.S. trade runs through the Suez. 40% of European trade does. There's a real risk that the public doesn't understand this or why it's necessary. The strongest reason to do this, as POTUS said, to send a message. But I am not sure the president is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. Yeah. No, it is consistent because he loves Israel. There. That's the reason why he did this. It's consistent with his messaging because he is an inconsistent person who doesn't care about anything. That's number one. And number two, he does love bombing places. That's something that he loves doing. He loves bombing Yemen. He did that when he was president last time. So he's just, you know, can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? Like he's gonna go after the thing that he likes doing. And also he loves Israel. He loves Israel. And this is precisely what this is for. The bombing campaign of Yemen is for Israel. That is not for Europe. It's for Israel. Ironic that none of them are bringing that up, though, even in this quote-unquote private correspondence. But I'm not sure the president is aware how inconsistent this is. There's further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices. I'm willing to support the consensus of the team and keep these concerns to myself, but there's a strong argument for delaying this a month, doing the messaging work on why this matters, seeing where the economy is, etc. Joe Kent, there's nothing time-sensitive driving the timeline. We'll have the exact same options in a month. The Israelis will likely take strikes and therefore ask us for more support to replenish whatever they use against the Houthis, but that's a minor factor. Well, Joe Kent brings up Israel. I will send you the unclassed data we pulled on BAM shipping. John Ratcliffe, from a CIA perspective, we are mobilizing assets to support now, but a delay would not negatively impact us, and additional time would be used to identify better starting points for coverage on Houthi leadership. VP, Pete Hegseth says, I understand your concerns and fully support you raising with POTUS. Important considerations, most of which are tough to know how they play out. Economy, Ukraine peace, Gaza, etc. I think messaging is going to be tough no matter what. Nobody knows who the Houthis are, which is why we would need to stay focused on 1, Biden failed, 2, Iran funded. Americans don't have enough appetite to blow up these random fucking people that they don't know who the fuck they are. So we just need to keep saying, oh, it's our major enemy, Iran. And we should also talk about how this is Biden's fault somehow. Waiting a few weeks or months does not fundamentally change the calculus. 2 immediate risks on the waiting. 1, this leaks and we look indecisive. Well, the drunk guy knew. 2, Israel takes an action first, or Gaza ceasefire falls apart, and we don't get to start this on our own terms. We can manage both. We are prepared to execute, and if I had final go or no-go vote, I believe we should. This is not about the Houthis. I see it as 2 things. 1, restoring freedom of navigation, a core natural interest, and 2, reestablish returns, which Biden cratered. But we can easily pause, and if we do, I will do all we can to enforce 100% OPSEC. I welcome other thoughts. Interesting. Why would the reporter actually report this now, though? Why not earlier, or why not later? Because the reporter is not a real reporter at all. Because if he was a real reporter, at some point, once they start talking about like what targets they're going to strike, he should have revealed this information, or he should have shut the fuck up and kept logging as much info as possible from this group chat until the group chat became dormant. And that's it. Hold on. Okay. The trade figures we have are 15% of global and 30% of container. It's difficult to break that down to U.S. specific because much of the container either going through the Red Sea or still around Cape of Good Hope are components going to Europe that turns into manufactured goods for transatlantic trade to the United States. Whether we pull the plug or not, today, European navies, oh, sorry, dyslexia. European navies, I thought he was fucking dunking on the European naivete. European navies do not have the capability to defend against the types of sophisticated anti-ship, cruise missile, and drones the Houthis are now using. So whether it's now or several weeks from now, damn, they are glazing the Houthis, by the way. I just want to say, glaze sesh. Poorest nation on the planet, by the way. Poorest nation on the planet. All they have is a dream, okay? A dream and initiative. That's all it takes sometimes, it seems. Whether we pull the plug or not today, European navies do not have the capability to defend against this. So whether it's now or several weeks from now, it will have to be the United States that reopens these shipping lanes. Per the president's request, we are working with the DoD and state to determine how to compile the costs associated and levy them on the Europeans. As we stated in the PC, Michael Waltz adds SM. As we stated in the first PC, we have a fundamental decision of allowing the sea lanes to remain closed. So it seems like they had another principal chat. It seems like he had another one of these signal chats, but this time he's got Jeffrey Goldberg in it, you know, luckily for us, I guess. SM is Stephen Miller. From a messaging standpoint, we absolutely add this two of horribles on why the Europeans must invest in their defense. Pete Hegseth, I think we should do it. Let's go. I just hate bailing Europe out again. Let's just make sure our messaging is tight here. And if there are risks that we can do upfront to minimize risks to Saudi oil facilities, we should do it. VP, I fully share your loathing of European freeloading. It's pathetic. But Mike is correct. We are the only ones on the plus side of the ledger who can do this. Nobody else even close. Question is timing. I feel like now is as good a time as any given POTUS directive to reopen shipping lanes. I think we should go, but POTUS still retains 24 hours of decision space. As I heard it, the president was clear. Green light, but we soon make clear to Egypt and Europe what we expect in return. We also need to figure out how to enforce such a requirement. If Europe doesn't remunerate, then what? If the U.S. successfully restores freedom of navigation at great cost, there needs to be some further economic gain extracted in return. Agree. Pete Hegseth, here comes more actually classified, detailed information that I don't think is meant for the public eye in this private group chat on Signal where people are using their personal private phones, which will be deleted, okay? Team update. Time now, 11:44 Eastern. Weather is favorable. Just confirmed with CENTCOM we are a go for mission launch. 12:15 Eastern. F-18's launch, first strike package. 13:45. Trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Also strike drone launches, MQ-9s. Now, if you know something about the Houthis, they love peppering those MQ-9s. They've taken out numerous of them, but the American government is still using them in operation on the bombing campaigns in Sanaa and numerous other parts of Yemen. More F-18s launched, second strike package. Strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop, pending earlier trigger-based targets. F-18 second strike starts. Also, first sea-based Tomahawks launched. JD Vance, I will say a prayer for victory. 2 people respond with prayer emojis. Michael Waltz set the disappearing message time to 4 weeks. He says, VP, building collapse, had multiple positive ID. Pete, Carilla, the IC, amazing job. JD Vance goes, what? Michael Waltz says, typing too fast. The first target, their top missile guy. We had positive ID of him walking into his girlfriend's building, and it's now collapsed. Excellent. This is an admission of a fucking war crime. They did a targeted strike on a civilian building where they knew full well that there were other civilians in the building to eliminate what they considered to be a high-profile, high-value target without any congressional approval whatsoever, without any sort of accountability whatsoever, while using millions of taxpayer-funded dollars. I need you to understand that these are real questions that people should be asking, and yet no one is asking these questions in mainstream news. What the fuck is going on? This is yet another indication that we have devolved as a society. This is over. There are no more interest in checks and balances whatsoever. These motherfuckers are basically making their war crimes public. Having this conversation in broad daylight, nobody cares. Everyone has a fuck you gonna do about it attitude. Also, thanks, Obama, for really, showing the way of how to do this, not just in Yemen, but in general. This, I think, certainly, like the reason why people don't even ask this question any longer is because liberals have also done exactly this and greatly lowered the restrictions. Good job, Pete, and your team. The team in MAL did a great job as well. Great work, all. Powerful start. CENTCOM was/is on point. Great job, all. More strikes ongoing for hours tonight, and we'll provide full initial report tomorrow, but on time, on target, and good readouts so far. In this process, they killed 53 people, including, I believe, 9 children. Kudos to all, most particularly those in theater and CENTCOM. Really great. God bless. Great work and effects. And then this is the details of who were on the Houthi PC small group with messages set to disappear in 1 week. Here's how Jesse Waters chose to defend this, by the way. We've all texted the wrong person before. Who amongst us? Incredible stuff. Incredible stuff. I believe there's still some stuff that's redacted from this convo, by the way, because they don't have the CIA asset that's undercover. Their name was not revealed from what I understand.
In this text chat. And the Democrats, of course, are predictably, they're going to jump on this. But should Goldberg just release the other information that he has? Because he's standing on this, well, I'm not going to release this information because I have my standards and journalistic standards. Okay, but it's not classified information, so does it matter? Would you care if the rest of this information came out?
Look, I mean, I would prefer, certainly, as the president was saying today, if we could all sit in a steel-lined room and have all of these conversations. I certainly want our deliberations to stay confidential. This was an encrypted app that the CIA had on sitting there as John Ratcliffe was confirmed and walked into the building from the prior administration. It's on other agency apps. And so, no, of course I don't want it all out there. Because these were conversations back and forth that you should be able to have confidentially. But what you also saw was a healthy policy debate in how we were going to achieve this for the president, what would be the results, what should be the timeline. And I think, again, I am fortunate to work for this president. I am fortunate to help him execute this vision and incredibly fortunate to have this team around him.
But there's no classified information in this exchange.
No classified information.
But you'd prefer it not to be out.
Of course. That'd be, do you want everything?
No, well, I don't work for the government. I mean, this is why that's why texting in general is, in government situations,
again, as
difficult.
The president said, if we could all stay in the same room, but when we've got
he's always been
people
like that.
moving, right? As he said again today, I mean, that would be his preference. I think all of our preference. But when he has people all over the world and we're coordinating these complex operations, we're moving at Trump speed. Fast. Doing all of this. We're cleaning up. I mean, we're doing 5 or 6 legacy-defining things in the first month. And we're cleaning up multiple Biden messes from the Middle East to Europe to the mess of our border. all at once at the same time.
You don't need any distractions. You don't need any side stories or distractions.
Yep.
And I think people are watching this. Most Americans don't. They want the about Russia, about Ukraine, about China. But they read stuff like, oh, wait, there was a 2023 DOD memo that said you shouldn't use Signal. And yet you hear Ratcliffe today saying, well, it was commonly used. So doesn't there need to be a standard across the board?
Absolutely.
Just don't use any of these apps. But then how do you communicate when you're not in a skiff?
Well, and that's what you heard. That's what you heard Elon talking about, kind of the mess that is government communications. I could tell you, members of that team, I've been very frustrated about, the quality of our communications. We are working to address that. So one of the things that DOGE is doing is improving our IT, is improving our ability to communicate. And to the extent we get everybody in the same room, always better.
Yeah, it's always better. But you've never met Goldberg. He's out there saying you guys have met in the past, but you've never met him.
No idea. Wouldn't know him if I bumped into him, if I saw him in a police lineup. Do now. Knew him by reputation about lying about the president over and over again. What I can tell you for certain, certainly wasn't reaching out or talking to him at all.
It's funny because he's talking about Goldberg like a scaredy cat, because he knows, like, the way he's referencing Goldberg here is important to take note of. The reason why he's talking about Goldberg like this, aside from, obviously being like, I love my president, Donald Trump, he's the greatest, is also because he doesn't want Donald Trump to think that he was fucking around. That's why he's like, I hate this guy. I hate him. I've never seen him. If I saw him, I wouldn't know what he looks like. I'd spit on his face. Major reason for that is because he doesn't want Trump to think that he has Goldberg's phone number in his phone, which he does. And he doesn't want Trump to fire him. Because what did we talk about? There is nothing you can do. You could be a murderer, pedophile, whatever. Trump does not care about any of that stuff. But what you can't be is disloyal, or even have the mere appearance of disloyalty. Because the very moment that Trump thinks you're a disloyal person, it's done. You're cut. You no longer have that sweet job that you dreamed of having your whole life, okay? He will take that away from you so quickly. So that's the reason why he's like constantly addressing that point. He's like, no shot, no shot, no shot.
Why would I?
Yeah, well, he's been one of the most vociferous, vituperative so-called journalists out there in the Atlantic.
Well, near and dear to my heart as a veteran is lying about Gold Star families who love this president, veterans who love this president, and are thanking God he's president and commander-in-chief once again. And then you have a defense secretary who this morning I was talking to is working out with the Navy SEALs out in Honolulu, leading, improving morale, improving recruiting, improving lethality, and working with DOGE to improve efficiency and get our warfighters back to meritocracy mission focus. I mean, again, Laura, this team believes in this president. This team likes each other, knows each other, is working. Was there a mistake? Absolutely. We're going to improve it. We're going to fix it. And we're going to move forward to achieve the president's agenda.
Why was Bessent on this text chain? I was curious about that. There's just like little things like, why would Scott Bessent?
Because you have a sanctions regime. This is, again, right? You had Biden just literally, they would swarm our destroyers with drones, cruise missiles, UAVs. At first, he would allow them to just shoot them down, then pinprick attack, then 4 months would go by, shut down shipping. 75% of global commerce is getting rerouted. The world owes the president a favor, or excuse me, a thank you for taking this on and fixing this problem. And that is dry up their money, dry up their supply chain from Iran, hold Iran accountable, go after the missiles, go after the leadership. If you're going to move against a terrorist group, you take them out. And that's exactly what this.
Actually relieved to see the nature of the exchange among you. I mean, it's kind of cool for regular people just to see, okay, how do these decisions get made with the president and the...
Yeah, now we've moved on to it's actually good that these text messages leaked.
Obviously Miller is representing the president, but I actually thought it was really refreshing to see how you all seem to have mutual respect. No one's like blowing off another person's opinion. And none of us know anything about how decisions were made in the Biden administration. Nothing.
Yeah.
Well,
or if he was even there.
The Biden administration never invited a journalist into a private Signal app conversation about striking targets. And of course, if they had done such a thing, we would have a very different approach here at Fox News on that issue. That's awesome. Like, no, it's great that this stuff leaked. I mean, the professionalism demonstrated by your deeply unprofessional and perhaps illegal conversation is awesome. We love to see it, folks.
Deciding, not how decisions were made, who was actually deciding, because clearly it wasn't him. But you see this healthy back and forth, this respectful back and forth, different points of view. But at the end of the day,
dog, Trump is not deciding. Like, he wasn't in the group chat. Like, what do you mean? Like, it's the group chat right here openly shows that Trump is also not in the driver's seat of this stuff. The logs show J.D. Vance being like, hey, this decision actually goes against the president's agenda. Someone should let him know. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about?
We're executing the president's vision, the president's direction, keeping it all coordinating and moving at Trump warp speed to do it all at once. I mean, not only have the media been on their back foot and the Democrats been on their back foot, all of our adversaries are on their back foot in terms of how to respond to him and the pace with which he moves.
Are we going to end this Ukraine war soon?
We just had the next step today. We've had an energy aerial ceasefire. We just defined what those targets that are now off limits on both sides are to de-escalate that. Now we're going to the Black Sea. The president's determined to end the war. And even, Laura, I mean, you have the NATO Secretary General, NATO, looking at the president in the Oval Office saying, you broke the logjam. Just months ago, no one was talking. Now we're going from, if this war will ever end, an endless war of people, treasure, and material, to now how it will end. And of course, the people that were in the endless war camp are going to criticize how this president is going to end it. But he is going to drive it to an end, and it's an honor to be part of it.
And lessons learned after the app. We're not using Signal app anymore.
Yeah, right. Lesson learned number one is you've got journalists out there who have made fame and fortune trying to trash this president.
These guys should be privately reaching out to Goldberg to suck his penis, to clean the crevices of his toes for not being a real journalist. A real journalist would have revealed this information in a timely manner after doing his due diligence. What are you talking about? They're such fake friends, dude. I mean, I hate Goldberg. It'd be awesome if they advocated to put him in prison, and that would be fire, and I would be on board with that, even though the consequences of such a move are fairly damaging. I mean, you're criminalizing people doing like basic bare minimum journalism in that situation. But, you know, I'm willing to entertain that notion for a little bit just because it means that Goldberg's in prison. But the way that they're talking about him is crazy.
Yeah.
And so, look, we've got to tighten up. We are tightening up, and we have some of the best technology minds looking at how this happened.
Well, it's happened to the best of us, but you know, President Trump just needs no distractions. He needs to, pedal to the metal.
And Laura, it's the honor of a lifetime to work for him.
Well, I really appreciate your coming in. There's a kind of a confusing set of facts, and thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling.